Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl. In this problem, we're going to be using the chain rule to evaluate the partial of w with respect to s and with respect to t. And once we do that, we'll then evaluate those partials when s is 1 and t is 3. So let's begin by getting the partial with respect to s. So the partial of w with respect to s can be written as the partial of w with respect to x times the partial of x with respect to s. Then we'll add the partial of w with respect to y times the partial of y with respect to s. Okay, now my partial of w with respect to x, I'll treat y as if it's a constant, so the derivative then is 2x. For the partial of x with respect to s, I'll use my equation that x equals s plus t. I'm going to treat t as a constant, so the derivative is 1. Now I need the partial of w with respect to y. So I'll be treating x as if it's a constant, so that gives me 2y. And now I need the partial of y with respect to s, and y, remember, is s minus t. I'll be treating t as if it's a constant, so that is going to be equal to 1. So that gives me a 2x plus 2y. Now remember that x is the same thing as s plus t, and y is the same thing as s minus t. So I have 2s plus 2t plus 2s minus 2t, and the 2t and the minus 2t add together to be 0, and my partial with respect to s is 4s. Now let's see what happens when s is 1 and t is 3. So when s equals 1 and t equals 3, the partial with respect to s is going to equal 4 times s, or 4 times 1, which is 4. Okay, now we need to find the partial with respect to t. And the process is very similar. So we'll take the partial of w with respect to t. That's going to equal the partial of w with respect to x times the partial of x with respect to t. And then we'll add to that the partial of w with respect to y times the partial of y with respect to t. So the partial of w with respect to x, we've already done this. This is a 2x. And this time, I'll be taking the partial of x with respect to t. So I'll treat s as a constant, and when I take the partial of x with respect to t, I'm just going to get 1. The partial of w with respect to y, again, I've already done that. That's a 2y. And I need the partial of y with respect to t. So again, I'm going to be treating s as a constant. So when I take the partial, I'm going to end up with a negative 1. All right, so that leaves me with a 2x minus 2y. And remember that x is the same thing as s plus t, and y is the same thing as s minus t. So that gives me a 2s plus 2t minus 2s plus 2t. My 2s and my negative 2s add together to be 0, and I end up with 4t. So the last piece is I want to find out what happens to this partial when s equals 1 and t equals 3. the partial of w with respect to t is going to be 4 times t. So that's 4 times 3, which is 12. I hope that was helpful. Thanks.